Baseball Show, as always, presented by BetMGM. Today, Tuesday, August 29th, we got to talk about the two hottest teams in baseball. The Seattle Mariners are in sole possession of the American League West as we record on Monday, the 28th. The Milwaukee Brewers have won 8 in a row as we record on August 28th. Bo Bichette, Matt Chapman leave in the same game. Couple of major league debuts we want to talk about, and Javier bleeping Assad at the end. I'm a huge fan. Aram, all good on this front, man. How are you living?
I also, one other note, I'm prepared to eulogize the San Diego Padres 3 weeks after I hyped them up to make a run. So I also want to eulogize them a little bit at some point of this episode as well. I'm doing fine. Thank goodness. Here's the beautiful thing about it. Padres fans out there, like I got a couple texts, couple messages like, thank you. Like, I know we can get back in it, whatever. And they must be feeling it. Because they usually had Bob Melvin like come out and say, like, there's no point in looking at the standings, which I get, because it's like, if you're not winning yourself, then who gives a shit what's happening in the standings? But the beautiful thing is, us take gods, we can just give a take. It doesn't work out. I'll move on to the next take. And Padres fans are out there reeling. Our own Javier Reyes, I have him still in my contacts as Javi Padres. He's reeling right now, man. And they're going to be a fun team to talk about this offseason, but I just wanted to declare them dead.
Yeah, let's start with the Padres, because Manny Machado going apeshit on a cooler was really cool. It was interesting. And I saw the tweet, like the video that I saw, the caption accompanying that video on X or on Twitter was, "This is the most emotion we've seen from Manny Machado all year," which is like a pretty fascinating statement. And I appreciate you owning your L take, because I have yet to own my opinion on the 2021 Minnesota Twins or the 2022 Minnesota Twins or the 2023 Minnesota Twins. So I'm just going to kind of live in blissful oblivion on the Minnesota Twins, but I appreciate you owning up on the Padres. Machado, that blow up, while it felt warranted, also did a pretty good job, like kind of encapsulating what's going on with San Diego.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like, why does that blow up come now when you're 61-70 and you're this far out of it? Like, I saw a lot of people that were kind of like, where was this a while ago? And, I wonder, there was like this level of, I think they looked around the clubhouse and they saw who they had. And I think they always felt like, this is going to turn around, kind of the way that we did. Now imagine, you're a future Hall of Famer surrounded by other guys who have very strong cases of being future Hall of Famers. You're like, we'll figure this out. And I think for at least Machado, yesterday was that point of like, wow, we're like, it's gone. The season's over. And like, we got no shot. And to me, that was, it came a little late. I don't think they realized how fast things were slipping away. And I guess to play the devil's advocate, 3 weeks ago, I thought they had a chance to make a run at it. They were only a few games out of it. They were at 55-58. Now they're 61-70. Like, it got away quick. They never had it, but it was always within grasp. Now it's gone. It's slipped away.
So you say it happened quick in the span of 3 weeks. I say it's 3 weeks, man. Like, why didn't this come 2 weeks ago when it was still within a shot? Why didn't it come a week and a half ago? Why didn't it come a week ago? So I don't know. The fact that it comes right now, I think, speaks to your point that you just illustrated really well, that they always felt like it would turn around. And there was no sense of urgency to galvanize this team. And last year, they were galvanized because there was urgency. When the Tatis shit hit the fan, Machado was like, okay, time to be a leader. And there was really no time this year where there was a concrete time to be a leader moment. So I think instead of trying to galvanize, like, the best managers in baseball get ejected at the best moments.
Oh, yeah.
They get ejected and they try and spur on a win.
Same thing in the NBA. You see those the coaches do it at the perfect time. They get themselves caught.
Exactly. Yeah. But this is, I think, equivalent to a manager getting ejected down 8 in the 8th inning because of a blown strike 3 call. There's
yeah,
no
he's just like, get me the fuck out of here. Like I've had enough. And it's funny because this team, man, like you look at the way it's built and you look at the way things have gone. And last year we were like, wow, it's finally happening. I find it incredibly funny that the most galvanizing moment for this team, at least from what we've been able to see on the outside, was Fernando Tatis getting popped for PEDs. Like that was the first time you saw everybody, Musgrove, Machado, whoever was in the clubhouse, like they were all like, yeah, we're going to string together. Like he's an idiot. We're going to string together and make this thing happen. And they played well. Like the most galvanizing thing for the San Diego Padres has been arguably their best player getting suspended for the remainder of the season, like after crashing a motorcycle twice. Like that is kind of shows you the state of the clubhouse there. Like that's the thing that brought them together. Like they're in a rough spot. And I'm not saying blow it up, but you've got to shake it up because you have to understand at this point that this group, like, I don't buy all the stories that have come out. I think, there's always like a minor truth and then it gets blown up into this bigger story. The minor truth is this isn't a great clubhouse. I think that, you could say that just by looking at the record. I mean, I think it's pretty clear, but you got to find a way to shake it up. I don't know if it's Soto not talking to, but whatever, all the stupid details were, I don't buy all that, but they got to shake something up here this offseason.
So we just hit on Machado and Tatis pretty much. And now I do just want to wrap real quick on Soto and Bogaerts. Soto, you traded for 3 off seasons of Juan Soto, or 3 postseasons of Juan Soto. Now you've taken yourself out of contention in one of those 3 postseasons. So they had last year, they didn't do it. They had a great run, but it's not a successful mission with Juan Soto because you didn't get to the World Series and hell, you didn't win the World Series. Next year's their last shot. So I just wonder what the future looks like for Soto in San Diego. Do they extend him this offseason? What's the price point there? I think he's, closer to 300 than he is 400 at this point. But the last thing I want to say is Xander Bogaerts, man. Like, is it unfair for me to say that I was expecting more leadership from Xander Bogaerts this year?
No, I don't think that's unfair. I guess like we didn't really know, it's just different. You go into a new clubhouse with guys that are already established, and it's probably a pretty weird position, right? Like you're joining Machado, Soto's in the fold there. We know all the guys that they have on the roster, of course, Tatis as well. And like, yes, in a vacuum, I think I'd expect Bogaerts to kind of be that guy that like sets the tone along with this new looks Machado, but maybe he just didn't fit in, like maybe he gets there and it's just like, this is not like it was in Boston. This is a lot different. I don't know. It might be a little bit unfair because he's the new guy. I'd almost pin it more on like, hey, Machado, like I know that you have improved in terms of the way that you carry yourself, but I mean, this should be your team, right? You've been the guy that's been there. You've been the guy that's weathered the storm through Tatis. You were the guy that helped kind of lead them through that postseason, last year. That would have been a guy that I'd hope would step up. My last question to you on this is, if I told you before the season, you don't know anything else, you just have this roster that is unbelievable, and I tell you Ha-Seong Kim will be top 12 in F4, how many games would you have thought the San Diego Padres won? Now, and not only that, Michael Wacha would basically be an all-star in the first half. I know he hasn't pitched then, so that part makes it a little unfair. But mostly on Ha-Seong Kim. How many games do you think they win if I tell you Ha-Seong Kim is top 12 in F4?
I think they would be 132-30.
Yeah. Right? Like, that's insane. Insane.
It's nuts. And like, you can't just pin it on the 4 superstars, but you can pin a lot on the 4 superstars, because how much more were you expecting from Trent Grisham? You were expecting more from Cronenworth. You knew.
I was going to say, Jake Cronenworth's the one guy you can pin it on too.
Yeah, you can pin it on Cronenworth.
They paid him, and he's been ass. Like, they paid him.
Yeah, and like, my other thing is like, how shitty did you think Austin Nola was? Because we knew he was really shitty. Like, I don't know. That the complementary pieces are not the problem for me. And I don't view Cronenworth as a complementary piece anymore. It's the 4 superstars in Cronenworth that have been the real issue for me. But I appreciate what Tatis has done, and Soto is having a great year. To positive news here, and the Seattle Mariners, who are alone in first place this late in the season for the first time since 2003. Thank you to the GOAT, Sarah Langs, for putting that note out. But 2003 was Ichiro, man. 2003 was a long time ago. That's 2 decades to be exact. Couple of notes that I found here. This Mariners team in the month of August, they have a team OPS of 874. That's 3rd best in baseball behind Philly, who's been standing on their head, and Atlanta, who's been doing this all year long. This is the same offense that was bottom 10 in OPS in April, bottom 10 in May, and they were bottom half in June. So this offense has taken a complete 180. Over the last week and a half, their ERA as a collective staff is under 3. The starting rotation has been utterly dynamite, and we've sung the praises of Kirby, Castillo, and Gilbert in the last week and a half on this show. Bullpen looks great. The Seawald move looks freaking awesome because Canzone's playing excellent ball for them. Rojas is playing pretty good ball for them. And Andres Munoz, who's ready to close shit out. Seattle, I think, is in the best position in baseball right now, aside from Atlanta. And frankly, I don't know if it's that close.
Yeah. No, and it's funny, like, it's exactly what we knew, what everybody knew it needed to look like for this team to be successful. You mentioned the ERA over I don't even care. We expected that, right? Like that's good. Like, that's great, and that's a big reason why they're awesome. That's what this team is built on. But the question going into this year was, how does this team that could throw the shit out of the ball last year too and went toe-to-toe in terms of getting outs with the Astros, how does this team score enough runs? They go get Teoscar Hernandez. We hope that certain guys take that step forward, and it just wasn't really happening this year. You look at the last month, Cal Rowley's got 11 homers in his last 26 games. And it's not like that's some crazy I mean, that's crazy for anybody. But He hit bombs last year. We were expecting him to kind of make that next leap because last year was kind of that breakthrough season for him. He was clutch. He was productive. He's a good power bat. He might not walk, but he's going to run into homers. He wasn't doing that this year. Now he's doing that. Teoscar Hernandez, like, that was supposed to be the X factor type guy to your lineup, right? Like, that was supposed to be the guy that really changes the way this lineup looks, gives them a layer that they didn't have. He's been very mediocre all year. Last 25 games, 353, 380, 618 slash line with 6 homers. And then, of course, it goes without being said, J-Rod being J-Rod and actually playing the way he's supposed to be playing. And I think that's a big part of it. But I think if you just had J-Rod playing out of his fucking mind in a vacuum and these other guys didn't step it up, they're probably still, fighting a little bit. To have Cal Rowley doing it at the same time, Teoscar doing it at the same time, Gino Suarez has finally been playing the way that he's supposed to be playing. And then you have to tip your cap to Jerry DiPoto because, as you mentioned, they made a mistake with Colton Wong. It just didn't work. Yeah. But instead of trying to go identify, like, who's some superstar second baseman we can go find, you don't need to find a superstar second baseman. You just need to find somebody that can play above replacement level because you are currently getting the worst production in Major League Baseball at second base. So they go get Josh Rojas on a buy low. Even if he plays league average or even slightly below, that's a massive upgrade at second base. Same thing with Canzone. They kind of needed another body out there with Jared Kelenic hurt. If he plays league average, that's an improvement for your team. I think people really forget that sometimes it's hard to find replacement level play. We're always looking at WAR, wins above replacement. But, how many teams are starting guys that are below replacement level? And if you can just find a replacement level player, that's an upgrade. We always look at 1 WAR or 0.5 WAR is like this horrible thing. And in a vacuum, it's not great. But if the rest of your team is good and you have one guy that is literally sucking the WAR out of your team cumulatively like Colton Wong was, Rojas is a huge addition.
Think about the national shows you watch or you listen to. Think about, turning on First Take or turning on The Herd. They're talking about the top 10 quarterbacks in football. They're not talking about the guys that, quote unquote, suck. The league average quarterback is the most taken for granted athlete in sports. Do you know how hard it is to find a league average quarterback? The Bears have been looking for that since 1985, and they might have one in Fields. Like, that's the thing about this Mariners team, man. And I think you illustrated that perfectly. What we do as like a national all encapsulating major league show is we talk about 5 guys per team, right? That's what, major league survey podcasts do. But the reason they're so good right now, yes, it's because Julio's hitting 410 and has swiped 11 bags in the month of August. Yes, it's because Teoscar is hitting 360 with an OPS over 1,000 in the month of August. And you mentioned Cal Raleigh's power output, but it's because of what Cade Marlowe did for them at the beginning of the month. It's because of what Canzone's doing for them. You are the best team in baseball because of what you do between the margins. Think about the Atlanta Braves. Acuna's been awesome. Riley is powering up. Matt Olson has been amazing. But they're good because fucking Orlando Arcia was the starting shortstop for the National League. Everybody's good for them. So credit to Seattle for raising their bottom line. Their weakest link is better.
And that's to put some specific numbers to that. Like Josh Rojas has been disappointing this year, compared to what he was last year. Colton Wong was a negative 1.0 win player in the eyes of F4. So you replace him with Josh Rojas, who's 0.6 F4 over the course of the season. Let's just, like, for argument's sake and simplify it and just say that's what he's been for the Mariners, or what he will be the rest of the way. That's a win and a half that you gain. That's a very, very, very big jump. Not to mention that, beyond just that analytical side of it, you're taking a guy that's an automatic out at the bottom of your order to a guy that's, is he going to fight to hit league average? Sure. But, 243 is going to help you out a lot more than one whatever. And so, again, like you mentioned, their bottom line is a lot better. And then you have the superstar playing like the superstar. And I think that's a big part of it too, is you see J-Rod playing the way he's playing. And I think the rest of the team starts to feed off of that a little bit. And then I've always said it. He's been hurt a lot of this year and he always gets banged up. You talk about taken for granted. I love Dylan Moore. I know Mariners fans have this, he's a very polarizing player for how little his role is. I've always loved Dylan Moore. I don't know why. It's something about the speed and he'll surprise you with just a rocket of a home run. But I mean, this guy was a 2-win player last year. He hasn't played all year long. He's been hurt. He's finally back in the fold. And Dylan Moore, over his last 18 games, 298, 377, 546. With what is it? We got 4 walks, 17. He's going to strike out, but he's driven in 7 runs. I don't know. I'm a Dylan Moore guy, and that's a awesome super utility guy to add to the fold as well. They're just clicking on all cylinders, and they're as deep as ever.
Do they hold on to the AL West? Do you think they win the division? I said last week, I think the Mariners win the division. I still stand by that.
The Astros look as vulnerable as they've looked, but I mean, they're going to get Michael Brantley back, whatever that looks like.
You know what game kind of did me in for Houston was Fromber no hit through 7, 1 hit till the bottom of the 9th, and Parker Meadows walks it off with that 3-run homer. I'm like, this team's not indestructible.
They're not our typical Astros team. I would say that, but my question is, Kyle Tucker playing the way he's playing, Altuve is a one. I'm looking at the rest of this team, and I'm still I still believe that they're gonna kind of just get hot down the stretch and make it happen. But I also feel like this is a team that doesn't feel like they necessarily need the division to be successful. I don't know if they're going to empty the tank trying to win the division. The Mariners, on the other hand, I think they do empty the tank to try to win the division. So that might make it a little bit different. I do think it's going to be hard for the Mariners to give it up because they're getting a quality start every single day, it seems like. And on the flip side, this is the least confident I've ever been in an Astros rotation, though it does help that they get Urquidy back here.
Yeah.
I don't know what you think Mariners hold on?
I do. I think so, because I think regular season baseball is louder at T-Mobile Park than it is at Minute Maid. And that is very basic analysis. But think about the raucous moments in the regular season that you see. They're in Seattle, man. I really don't see the raucous moments in Houston at all. I think that regular season baseball matters in Seattle when the Mariners are good, and the Mariners are really good right now.
Yeah, and I think they'll feed off of that. I do think there's a level of just like they need that division more, and I think they're going to go balls to the wall.
Julio almost cursed on a live mic yesterday. Did you see that? He held back.
Yeah.
He held back the word shit, and I was like, "That's some energy from J-Rod." And Mariners fans gave him like a roaring applause after the fact. I think they're all systems go in the regular season.
I agree. And again, when you get to the playoffs, it's going to be tough. But I'm with you. I think it's interesting. I think with the rotation looking the way it's looking, Brantley might have a little bit of that acclimation process. Jordan just continues to kind of be banged up. We'll see what they get from Abreu. Pena's had a disappointing sophomore season. Maldonado's become unusable. Like there's questions here. I'm not going to count them out in the playoffs. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, I'm with you. Like we got a lot of regular season games to go still. I think the Mariners could be more consistent.
I think it was April or May. I said Kyle Tucker was a $200 million player. Like that was a hot take. I think he's closer to 300. Yep.
He's the most underrated superstar in Major League Baseball. I will be buying his cards, by the way, too. Like that's a guy I'm 100% copping the cards. Like he's somebody that's still underpriced, like incredibly underpriced.
Are you doing it on alt, Aram?
Of course I am. Of course I am. Good. But no, isn't it crazy? Like his cards, that was one that I actually used alt for. I looked at it and I was floored. He's priced lower, like for his Bowman Chrome Auto PSA 10, which is like, if you want to buy like the Apple stock of a player, like in terms of like everyone always asks, like, I want to invest in a player. Obviously, this is going to be the more expensive way to do it, but you can go on alts and you can search it and it'll give you, search Kyle Tucker. It'll give you every single PSA 10 Bowman Chrome Auto of his. And you can compare it to other cards on there. Like there's no better price guide than alt. And the craziest part is like, you'll compare him to some prospects and Kyle Tucker's cheaper than some of the top outfield prospects in baseball right now. And I'm like, you're praying to every god on earth that prospect becomes Kyle Tucker. I know it's Astros. I know like all that good stuff. But Tucker might not stay there. We know they don't give $300 million to guys. So when Tucker gets $300 million from the Astros in a few years, like he's going to be a popular card, man. Like that guy could go to Cooperstown. Like I'm buying that card on alts. Like I promise you. And I'm kind of mad I said it now because I didn't get a chance to buy them all before maybe some of the listeners scooped them up. But I'm literally going to buy it before we publish this episode.
Tucker, I thought for a moment Tucker was a Boris guy, but Tucker's an Excel guy. So shout out Excel, winning again. This is really exciting.
Shout out Excel on that one.
Alt.xyz. Link is in our episode description. Go get your cards on alt and go save your search. So when Aram does unload his top prospect cards to go get more Kyle Tucker cards, go get the top prospect cards. It's a mutually beneficial thing.
That's how I'm getting Kyle Tucker right now. Finally get to sell these Josh Lows.
Josh Lowe, got it.
Josh Lowe out of 99, Josh Lowe out of 50, and I might have to be unloading this Matt McLain out of 99 here. It might be time to let him go.
McLain's been great. I think.
I know. It's more of just like to be able to go like buy some more blue chip stock, and trying to move up from the penny stocks. Like I got Ryan Clifford over here that I've been holding on to for a little bit. Finally get to cash in the Wilyer Abreu over here.
Yeah, big debut
by the Red Sox. He's good. He's actually not bad. I think he can fill the Jarren Duran role a little bit out there in Boston. I mean, Duran's been playing on another level, but I do think that he can hold his weight.
More Wilyer Abreu talk a little bit later in the episode because we've got now a trio of big league debuts to hit on real quick. But you mentioned McLain. Let's stay in the National League Central here, and let's go to the Milwaukee Brewers, who, again, at this point have won 8 in a row through this weekend since August 18th. So that's last Friday, not last Friday, this past weekend, the Friday before that. You go back, I think that's a 10-game stretch that Milwaukee's played in there. They, as a team, have walked 41 times and struck out 51 times. 12.5% walk rate is the best clip in baseball during that stretch. 15.5% K rate is the best clip in baseball during that stretch. It sounds boring. I know it's not sexy, but walks and strikeouts offensively, walking a lot, not punching out, that's what they're doing as a team right now. and in turn, they've won 8 games in a row. It might just be that fucking simple.
What do you think they were looking for when they traded for Mark Canha? Exactly that. Exactly that, like to a T. And can I be fully honest? I forgot they traded for Mark Canha until I tuned in recently.
He was playing some first base. Did you see him playing first base?
Yeah, first of all, I was like, wait, who is that Mark Canha out there? Like,
I know those sideburns anywhere.
Oh my gosh. Like, so full disclosure, do this for a living, totally blanked on Mark Canha being acquired by the Brewers. Great pickup. Like, he might give you league average offense, slightly above, but he's going to grind out at bats. He's a good guy to add to the fold. Again, we talk about the value of just like not having a break in your lineup. Like, if the quote unquote break in your lineup now is they've won less, now it's probably Terang or like Monasterio. But you're hoping
I like Monasterio, man. Monasterio
has been good. You're hoping you can platoon Brian Anderson, who's been, banged up and per usual, just not being able to play to his ability, but maybe he can give you a little bit something more. They definitely needed a Canha in the fold. Like Carlos Santana, again, walks. I think they went all in on like walks, running into some homers, and they've got some speed now in the fold too. We're going to talk about guys that can be added to the roster and as they expand in September on the call up. And you mentioned Tyler Black. I mean, Tyler Black fits like a glove for what this team needs. He can play the hot corner. He can play a little first. He can be that bench, like you mentioned, like pinch runner type. And then Rowdy being back and starting to get rolling, hopefully, like that's a power bat that they can have in the fold too. This team's for real. I've always been pro Brewers this season. Like I will say, I've been pro Brewers, and they survived without Woodruff and a crappy Burns to start the year, relatively speaking. Now they've got Woodruff back. Now they've got Burns. Peralta seems to be throwing the ball all right. Like this team's coming together.
And Devin looks so gross right now.
He's an elite closer.
There's few things more enjoyable than Devin Williams when he's truly on.
Yeah,
I'd say Felix Bautista is more enjoyable than Devin, but it sucks that he's got a UCL injury, quote, to some degree, according to the Orioles. We talked about that with Walker Buehler, but your thoughts on Felix Bautista likely being done for the year and probably turning to Yennier Cano to close games for the best team in the AL East.
That's a big deal, man. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. The good news is they have other arms. I'm still a believer. I'm a believer in closer by committee unless you have the big bad man. Like I'm very okay with a few different people being able to close. We've seen some of the best bullpens in recent memory have a handful of different guys close games out. Remember the Giants in their freak season. They had like 12 different guys with multiple saves. The Dodgers every year are like that. But there's always a but to that. The but is when you have a Devin Williams. The but is when you have a big bad man like Felix Bautista. So it's going to be interesting to see who steps up. The good news is they do have the type of team that could have been closer by committee, and I think they have other guys that could close them out. So we'll see. Hopefully DL Hall can now slot into a 7th inning role for them. And then all of a sudden, your 8th inning guy can pick up some saves too. Your new 8th inning guy, that is. Yeah, I know Brian Baker's already been on the mend, so he looks like he could be back. I'm not too worried about the bullpen, but there is just something about that like imposition of the game is over that was great about the Orioles that they don't have right now with Bautista out, which does stink. I do want to circle back on the Brewers bullpen real quick too. Yeah. Peter pushed back hard on me in the beginning of this year because I said I thought the Brewers bullpen was actually pretty good and I thought this team was going to be pretty good. And he's like, nah, I actually don't think that bullpen's that good. And in his defense, who thought Joel Payamps would be this good? But
the Brewers did when they traded for him.
Yeah, that's fair. But he's been on another level. Devin Williams has been awesome. Abner Uribe, we talked about him as a prospect. I did not factor that into my equation of the Brewers bullpen this year. Like I said, I like the Brewers bullpen because I was like, I believe in Devin Williams. I believe in a couple of the guys that they have in the fold there. I think Payamps will be fine, and I think they'll be able to just get outs. They've been way better than I thought they would be. And Peter almost like talked me back the other way. I'm like, yeah, you're right. Like this is probably more of an average bullpen than a good one. But you have a Uribe throwing 103. And throwing enough strikes now, which was our big question when we saw him as a prospect. They add Chafin. They have all these other options. that have been really solid, and then you have one of the best closers in baseball. This is a well-rounded team that finally is just scoring enough with some of the young guys being able to make an impact. If Willy Adames can kick it into another gear, look out. This might be the best Brewers team in a while.
So my working theory on Andrew Chafin is you take that guy and you put him in a city that specializes in craft beer and dairy, and that guy's going to turn into Billy Wagner.
Mm-hmm. I hope that works. It might be.
We'll see. AL East, Toronto was dealt a really tough blow on Sunday. Same game, Bo Bichette leaves with a quad issue, and Matt Chapman leaves with a finger issue. Initial report is it might just be quad tightness or quad soreness for Bichette, and he'll be day-to-day. Chapman, it looks like he could actually land on the injured list. If Chapman does go on the IL, and Bichette does miss 5 to 7 games with this quad issue, are they screwed with how good the AL West is right now?
They're in trouble. And well, you're talking about Toronto, so AL East.
Yeah, but with how good the AL West is, like they might be screwed out of a wild card spot.
Yeah.
Tampa's playing great ball somehow, some way, and Tampa needs a lot of love right now. Let's take a moment to heap praise on Tampa. The fact that they got dealt the McClanahan thing and the Wander Franco shit in the same week, and they're still playing great ball with Oslevis Basabe at shortstop.
Chill.
Come on, man. This team is a machine.
I know. It's unbelievable. And you know, like it seems like people talk about like player development and all that good stuff, but it seems like in this situation here, I know Rays fans will complain and be like, oh, like our guys don't always come up and produce. It seemed like everybody that they've plugged and played this year has been ready to go and it's been ready to serve a role. I think it says a little bit about the player though. Like Oslevis Basabe just seems like he's unfazed. Like he's come in. I'm not saying he's going to light the world on fire, but we talked about how tough of a job that is. Like he comes in, plugs in, and has been able to hold his own. They've got other guys that have been able to plug and play. But yeah, I mean, it's amazing. Like, this is the ultimate race test, right? Like we always joke about how they plug random dudes in. They piece it all together with these bullpen games or like makeshift rotations, bullpens, whatever it may be, and they find a way. This is the epitome of that, and they're doing it. And I loved Brandon Lau's quote after the little like scuffle with the Yankees, and he's like, "Yeah, they're a last place team trying to ignite a spark. Like we're a team playing for something, and we're not going to like waste our time with that." And to me, it's just like this team, you can say what you want about what they do in the postseason or what they don't do, but they're always there. And the core of this team has always been there now, or at least several of these guys, even if they're playing or they're hurt or whatever. I feel like a lot of the leaders of the clubhouse now have this experience playing meaningful games down August, playing meaningful games into September, and unfortunately losing guys because the Rays have been relatively cursed over the last couple of years with stuff like that. So I think several of these guys are used to it. I think several of these guys just have their heads down and know what it's like to play high leverage baseball down the stretch here as the AL East has kind of been a juggernaut. And I just think the Rays mentality, we always hear players talk about how laid back it is and how it's kind of player driven. And I think these players are just, especially you talk about something galvanizing a clubhouse, like you got to come closer together when you have things that have happened the way they have this year. And, you could fall apart or come together. This team's been there. I think they've really come together. And I'm not counting them out at all. I'm just not going to because they still have plenty of talent. And they have a lot of young players that could kind of hit another gear. And if Curtis Mead goes Matt McClain, would you be shocked? Like I wouldn't. I know they're different players, but I'm just talking about production wise. Wouldn't be shocked at all. And all of a sudden now this team looks a lot scarier.
No, I think this team is incredible. And I'm eating more shit day by day because I still believe, I don't think they have the rotation to go deep into the postseason. They've won 8 of 10, Bobby.
They don't have anything that a tradition that a baseball mind would look at depth chart wise and say, thumbs up, go right ahead. This is going to work.
And
But
you and I both have immense prospect bias. So I think we look at Basabe and Mead and it's like, okay, yeah, they can be good. But I look at this rotation, man, and I'm just like, there's no McClanahan here. There's no Rasmussen here. There's no Boz here. How are they going to do this? Glasnow has been incredible for them. Eflin has been amazing for them all year long. Savali has been reliable. Like, it's bizarre what
yeah,
we're seeing.
should we? Yeah, it's amazing. And I don't know, is there an update on Shane Boz? Is there any chance at all that they can get? I'd assume no.
I don't think he started a rehab yet.
Yeah,
If he started a
unfortunately.
rehab, I would say maybe.
Yeah, I mean, could you imagine? So I saw on March 30 started throwing to at the beginning of the year. That usually puts X amount of months. It's going to be tough. That would have been a really awesome wrinkle is if they get like a Shane Boz back in the fold and he comes in and just starts going nuts for them. But looks like that's probably unlikely. We'll see. We'll see what they'll be able to do on the pitching front. Maybe Taj can come back up and make an impact. I do think Kobe White could end up having a nice little impact in that bullpen. That guy's got a special fastball, but it'll be interesting to see how they piece it all together. But to circle back to the Blue Jays.
Yeah, Toronto.
I mean, this is where I talk about a point that Peter made about, the Brewers bullpen. Peter has a Prize Picks entry that looks like it's going to it needs one piece to cash. And I mean, he's crushed all of it. It was like 6 legs. 5 of the legs are pretty much taken care of. And the last leg should have been the easiest layup of all of them, which was like Vlad Guerrero Jr. to have X amount of hits. And it was like a pretty low number. And he's like going to have to play well to get that. And I just think it's so wild that Peter threw out Jordan under home runs, like Kershaw under Ks, like all of these different things that most people would never touch, hits those. And then it's the Vlad Guerrero Jr. hits that may not hit. And I think that's the funniest part because it's like, I think Peter's going to get it, which will be a nice wrinkle and what's been a up and down season for him, and a really impressive entry there. But the reason why I'm bringing it up is it's on Vladdy now, man. Like, this is where Vladdy needs to take them to the promised land. George Springer's been playing better of late. You've had Davis Schneider come in and hit 5 pumps in 11 games, which I love the Davis Schneider story. That's been awesome. Brandon Belt, all of a sudden, has 7 homers in 21 games. Like, they've got the complementary pieces doing what they need to do. You've lost Bichette, who was your superstar all year. Matt Chapman had his moment in the beginning of the year. He's fallen off a cliff for a while now, so you can't really put it on him. Varsho has even come alive this month. Vladdy, it is on you. You need to play like Vlad Guerrero Jr. You need to be the guy that's supposed to be one of the best hitters in Major League Baseball. Like, I think it's really just that simple. I hate boiling it down to one player. I hate making it that simple. Like, the ship has sailed on Alejandro Kirk this year. He's just not going to be good for you. Like, Vlad Guerrero Jr. needs to be Vlad Guerrero Jr., and I think it's just that simple.
I think it might be that simple as well. And it would be really nice if Bichette can play Robin to Vladdy's Batman down the stretch. But yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. No notes there. I love that.
I mean, Bichette's been Batman. And I'm just saying, like until Bichette comes back or like if Bichette's banged up, I'm like, Vladdy needs to take the pressure off this guy. He rushed back after a little knee buckle. I'm not going to try to speculate, but I'd imagine the quad and the knee have some sort of thing in common.
Yeah.
Like, help your guy out. Take some pressure off of him and be the dude you're supposed to be.
Vladdy just got to 20 homers, right? Like,
Probably.
just now.
I think so, yeah.
It's not miserable. Like, he's having, if you viewed him from a blank slate, he's a well above average hitter, but we can't expect 340 and 35 homers, but we want 340 and 35 homers because we know that's in the tank, and he just hasn't shown that the last 2 years.
Dude, I would take what he did last year even at this point, which was 274 and 32 homers. When you are a subpar first baseman at best or DH, you got to mash. He's a half a win player this year. I mean, Kyle Schwarber has been more valuable while playing the worst left field of all time.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like that.
And you're not being hyperbolic. Actually, the worst left field.
No, like legitimately the worst left field. I think it was Peyton, our guy Peyton Genus, who does an unbelievable job. He was pointing out, I think, that he hasn't made a catch with a catch probability under 80% this year. I genuinely think if you take an average athlete, and I'm not saying they would do it like all the time, but if you take an average athlete and you throw them out there, I do think that if they've seen some fly balls in their life, I think they make a catch with a catch probability under 80, like a 75% catch probability grab.
Yeah, I think you give them a month to practice. Take 100 fly balls a day.
They're gonna miss a bunch of routine ones that Schwarber makes a catch on. So like, I'm not trying to like belittle it. Like you put some guy out there that played high school ball and get some time to practice. He's still gonna miss some very routine high fly balls that Kyle Schwarber catches with ease. But I do think that this Samaritan makes one grab with a catch probability under 80%. Like that is. Schwarber is just not capable of covering enough ground to do it.
But that's Vladdy's issue right now too, man. Like Vladdy, the fact that he's not outproducing that guy and he's playing first base where you can be immobile and still be serviceable is almost borderline impressive from him.
It's tough, man. He's 24.
Yeah.
Like, come on. You can't play first. You're 24. You're a freak athlete in the box. The way he moves in the box is unbelievable.
His knees don't hurt, bro. His knees don't hurt. Like,
Schwarber was a catcher and stuff. Like, I give him a lot more leeway. He's 30. Come on, Vladdy.
All right. Let's wrap with 3 debuts and then wax poetic about a certain Cub. I'll save the third guy who's the Cub for last. Wilyer Abreu. Recently added to the list. What do you make of him? And we can kind of go rapid fire through these.
Yeah, Wilyer's fun. I obviously the circumstances stink that Duran has to hit the IL and take some time here, and there might be some growing pains with Abreu. But what I like is, I think he's one of those guys that is not going to be entirely unproductive because he walks as much as anybody in the minor leagues. He has above average speed. He's got above average power. And he can play all 3 outfield spots, at least at a passable level. So that's kind of what I want when I'm in an emergency plug-and-play situation. A guy that can run into some home runs, a guy that even when he's not hitting is going to walk, and a guy that can run a little bit and play all 3 outfield spots. So Abreu, he was acquired in that Vasquez deal. I've always liked him as a prospect. And I thought that, one, that was a great get by the Red Sox in a rental Vasquez trade there. And 2, I think Abreu can actually hold it down and be a decent piece for them.
Yeah. All right. Hunter Goodman. Let's take a gander at Hunter Goodman's numbers over the last couple of years. Last year, he was 73 games in low A, 49 in high A, 12 in double. He hit 294 with 36 homers and 106 driven in 134 games. In 106 minor league games this year, 91 in Double-A Hartford, which is a pretty tough place to hit, and then 15 games in Albuquerque, which is a very easy place to hit. Hunter Goodman has 30 doubles, 34 homers, and 111 RBIs in 106 games. 34 and 111 in 106 games. In Triple-A Albuquerque, 15 games. This guy slashed 371, 418, 903 slugging. That's a 1321 OPS. He had 9 homers in 15 games. Just had a multi-hit major league debut for the Colorado Rockies. And oh, by the way, he made a diving play at first base. He's a first baseman. Is he already a better option moving forward than Tolia?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, 150% yes. 150% yes. And we were joking about it on the call-up. We said Hunter Goodman to the PCL is going to be comical in terms of home runs. And he, within how many games did you say he played there? Was 15. It 9? 13?
No, 15. He had
15.
9 in 15 games.
Yeah, he had 9 home runs in 15 games. He had 3 multi-homer games in the PCL. So every 5 games, He had a multi-homer game as he was there. Like, that's insane. This is a dude that hits the ball in the air consistently, drives it in the air consistently. And again, you mentioned like what he did in Hartford. That's a tough place to hit. That's like that's the biggest leap, I think, for Rockies prospects is like the lower levels, the ball generally flies. AAA, the ball generally flies. If you hit for power and double, that's a great sign. Because then you're like, okay, that's going to translate. Because Hartford is a big ballpark that it obviously doesn't fly nearly as well.
Colorado.
As
Colorado's an easier place than Hartford.
Yeah. Oh, 1,000,000%. And so to see what he did in AAA was just hilarious. Like, I thought it was going to be a cheat code, and then it was even more of a cheat code than that. How do you hit 9 home runs in 15 games? It's absolutely absurd. And then his start there, you know, in the big leagues, couldn't ask for much more than that. He came up as a catcher. He's not going to catch. I just like dying. The bat was just way too good for I think the Rockies to wait for the glove to come around. Yeah. I think he's going to be iffy in a corner. Like, it's going to take some time. So I agree. I think he ends up being better at first than Tolia. And then you throw him in the outfield to keep the bat in the lineup at points. But this guy's going to hit the ball in the air. He's going to hit a lot of home runs. I think this is a legitimate name to follow. Like, I do think he's going to be a productive big league hitter. I really do.
Last debut is the lefty Jordan Wicks for the Cubs, who was their first-round pick in 2021. Jordan Wicks started in Pittsburgh on Saturday. First major league hitter he saw hit a home run against him in Ke'Bryan Hayes. Second major league hitter he saw was Brian Reynolds, who singled. His final line, 5 innings, those 2 hits, 9 Ks, 1 walk. 1 base runner after the second hitter of the game for Jordan Wicks. I was not expecting this. I was expecting 5 innings, but I was expecting him to scatter 6 hits and strike out 3 and walk 1. I did not have 9 punch outs in his major league debut on my bingo card.
So that's the funny thing, man. It's like these guys get scouting reports. I think, you know, some of these big leaguers, they get scouting reports on a guy making his debut. And this is totally speculation for me because I didn't get to talk to anybody that faced Jordan Wicks in that game. I've talked to people who have faced Jordan Wicks in the past, who have talked about how good he is. But when you're in the minors and you get a scouting report that says, hey, changeup is really good, you say changeup's really good. I feel like there's a level of like big leaguers. They get a minor leaguer coming up who hasn't been like celebrated like this big name guy. And you get plus change. So, oh yeah, okay. I see a plus change every day. To me, it looked like a lineup of guys who were perplexed at how good Jordan Wicks' changeup was. It was like, oh yeah, plus change, whatever. Nah, that's plus. That's a big league elite changeup. And Jordan Wicks went to that changeup 27 times and had a ton of success with it. I don't think he gave up a hit, and I think he punched out 5 with that changeup. That set up everything else for him. And, you know, a cool story was, and Wicks is supremely confident on the mound. One of my buddies in minor league ball texted me this story as kind of just like this Wicks has it story that I thought I just appreciated. Wicks and this guy battle it out 12, 13, 14 pitches. And then he takes a pitch for ball 4, gets to first base. Wicks locks back in, strikes out the next batter. As they're walking off, he looks back at the guy that worked the walk and said, great AB, brother. That was a grind. And the reason why the guy texted me that was most pitchers get pissed off or this or that. And he was like, to me, as a hitter, that screamed a guy that is as confident in himself as possible. Like out there, it's a battle. Like it's not really me versus you. It's just me being the best version of myself and seeing if it works. And like, that's what Wicks screams. There's nothing that jumps off the table with him besides his changeup. He's a lefty who knows how to pitch, who's supremely confident. And I don't know, that like nice AB, brother, like that was a grind, like kind of attitude to me is exactly what I'd want out of a Jordan Wicks type of player. Like he's not going to try to muscle up and overpower you. He's not going to try to be something he's not. And he's a supremely confident pitcher. I think you saw that out there. It was relaxed, but it was competitive. And that nice AB brother is like relaxed, but competitive. And I think that's exactly what Jordan Wicks is.
100%. One quick note. I remember the Pirates getting obliterated by a changeup earlier this year. And I was like, when did that happen? That happened to Tyler Anderson in Anaheim last month. And I was like, Tyler Anderson hasn't been good this year. But we know Tyler Anderson has one of the better changeups in baseball. And when it's right, it's good. But changeups should get soft contact. You shouldn't get whiffs on changeups. Pirates swung at 12 Jordan Wicks changeups. They whiffed 9 times. 12 swings, 9 whiffs. You go back to Tyler Anderson on July 23rd. The Pirates swung 32 times. Tyler Anderson got 15 whiffs on the changeup from the Pirates. Yeah. So Wicks might have been gifted the worst changeup hitting lineup in all of baseball.
Yeah.
But still, man, like to do that lineup, major leaguers is crazy.
Yeah, and look, the strikeouts aren't going to look like that. To your point,
yeah,
I think you make an excellent point. There is that he's going to have to pitch a little bit more, and some of these other outings where like you can't throw 27 changeups and 18 four-seamers. Like it's just you're going to have to mix it up. But here's the thing: is the four-seamer and the sinker, he threw a combined 25. Four-seamer pitchers that were labeled as four-seamers and sinkers. Or 25 strikes, 7 balls.
Okay.
So 32 pitches that were labeled as fastballs and 25 of them were strikes. That's how you're going to set things up too, right? Like I think the fastball really set up the changeup. Again, this is a dude that just knows how to pitch flatly. And I want to shout out Jed Hoyer. The Cubs continue to ace the draft. And it's not just like having a mold and sticking to it. It's zigging some years and zagging others. Jordan Wicks fell into their lap. Okay, we take him. That's going to be a big league starter for them for a while. Matt Shaw, great pick. That's a guy that I thought kind of fell into their lap. But they underslotted Cade Horton. He looks like one of the best pitching prospects in baseball now. At number 7 overall, they underslotted him big time. That allows them to get Jackson Ferris, who looks like he could be a top 100 pitching prospect. They are cooking. And I'm sure I'm missing things. This is off the dome, but they are cooking in the draft, and that is setting them up for some sustainable success. It's also why they were okay with trading a rental DJ Hers, who's been awesome in the Nationals, or a great trade for the Nats. But that's why they were okay with trading a rental DJ Hers. Hey, we just drafted Jackson Ferris, who's better than him. Like they are setting themselves up to be able to add to the big league team by drafting well. And that's why I always emphasize that drafting is so important. Oh, we won't see these guys for 5 years. It's not about that. It's about building a portfolio of assets that you can cash in on big league talent. And Jed Hoyer's doing that. The Cubs are awesome. We didn't mention them in this episode, but they've been playing great ball. And I think Jed Hoyer is starting to really solidify himself as one of the best in the business in terms of executives.
For sure. That tandem of Jed Hoyer and Carter Hawkins is really, really strong. And like you didn't even mention who Hers was traded for. It's a guy that's OPSing 900 and hitting 300 in Candelario in 23 games. So it's been a good deal. I want to wrap with Javier fucking Assad. And we've talked about this guy. We kind of broke in with him last year when we both watched him, I think, in AAA, and then he got up for his first taste of the big leagues. And it was like, wow, this guy throws like 6 pitches in any given count, and none of them are really good, but he keeps guys off balance. And then he had that massive breakout in the World Baseball Classic this year as a 2-3 inning reliever for Mexico. Dude, Javier Assad has been one of the more unheralded pitchers in all of baseball. And moving forward, I think the Cubs are going to be in the postseason because they're running out of 5, including Jordan Wicks and Javier Assad. So far this year in 79 innings, Assad is sporting a 2.96 ERA. And the one that catches me by surprise, opponents are hitting 220 against him.
Yeah.
Javier Assad, 19 1/3 innings out of the bullpen in July. This guy allowed 1 earned run. He moves to the rotation in August. This guy's got an ERA at 2.48. And has 2 starts of 7 innings and 1 run this month. Assad has been dynamite.
Yeah, so again, this was a cool one because Assad, I saw him by accident in AA. I didn't give a crap about him at the time, I'll be honest. I was there looking at, all the different prospects that were relevant at the time. I was more excited to see Canario. at the time. I was more excited to see Matt Mervis. I was more excited to see a lot of different guys, in that ball game. Assad just happened to be the pitcher. And I was sitting behind home plate, and I'm like, everything is moving in a different direction. Nothing looks insane. And I'm like, oh, I can't wait to talk to some of the guys on the other side that faced Assad after this game. And they were like, man, there's like not really an approach for him, because this guy can throw you 6 different pitches. And like, he's comfortable throwing all of them. He's got a sinker, a cutter, a four-seamer, a slider, a curveball, and a changeup. And he'll go to any of them. Like, there's ones that he'll go to more than others, but right when you think he's going to ziggy zags, and then he hits his spots with all of them. I've never seen a player that gets more outspoken support from his teammates than Assad does. You got people on Twitter all day, like Albert Alzolai, who's like a pure stuff guy, is like, you don't have to be a stuff guy. Like, Assad just knows how to pitch, whatever. And I'm just like, dude, this is cool. This is really cool.
Didn't Mark Leiter?
He knows how to pitch.
Mark Leiter said Assad is like one of the best pitchers in baseball, right? And we're like, we love him, but no. But
okay, maybe off of like ability, because he might be like one of the least talented in terms of just like raw stuff. So dude, I don't know. Like, imagine if he had like freak stuff. I think he would maybe be one of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball.
So Javier Assad, like, he's chubby and he wears glasses, not goggles. He wears full-blown thick frame glasses, and he looks socially awkward in the dugout when he's not starting. There's something so endearing about Javier Assad. I think this guy's going to be a fan favorite for a long time. I love him. I loved him in Iowa when I saw him, and I fucking love him now.
Yeah. He just limits hard contact and gets out. So he's awesome. He's awesome.
He's so much fun, and I do think the Cubs are a postseason team, and they're going to run out of 5 through the end of this year of Steele, Hendricks, Tyone, Wicks, and Assad, and it's going to get it done. So that's it from us on the Just Baseball show. I think me and Peter tomorrow, and then Peter and Aram on Thursday. Yeah, that's the case. Enjoy the ball tonight. A couple of really good pitching matchups, including Savali going for Tampa against Sandy Alcantara in Miami. Every link you need in the episode description, and Peter and I will talk to you tomorrow.